Hi, my name is Charisse Janelle, and you're listening to Chapter 5 of Barbara Conklin's P.S. I Love You, book number 1 of the Sweet Dreams book series by Bantam Books, copyright 1981. Chapter 5. You're lucky there's a buzzer hookup out back, Paul said, smiling again at my mother. With all the noise Jim and I are making out back, we would have never heard you. His nose was very straight and just the right length. His skin was evenly tanned, and the longer I looked at his eyes, the bluer they seemed to become. I felt the red rushing to my face. Surely he could feel me staring at him. Looking down at the tiles, I pretended to study them. I didn't raise my head up until he was finally ushering us inside. We walked on glistening white marble slabs inside the vestibule. At the end of the hallway, there was a magnificent staircase, all in white. We'd have to go around without shoes, I thought. Turning then to the left, Paul led us into a sunken living room, its thick, deep blue carpeting swallowing up our feet. I swear I couldn't see below my ankles when I looked down. I'll have to give you a quickie tour, Paul said, wiping a streak of ivory paint from his arm. It got on his hand, and when he pushed back his hair again, he'd transferred some of it to his forehead. I laughed out loud, causing him to take a look in the gilt-edged mirror over the stone fireplace. I breathed a sigh of relief when he laughed too. What a creepy sight I am, he told us, but like I said, it'll have to be a real quick tour, as I don't want Jim out in the hot sun alone too long, or he'll just keep right on working until he drops over. Are you gardening? My mother asked, still stunned by the plush room. We're building a gazebo, Paul told us, taking a rag out of his back pocket. He tried to wipe the paint from his forehead, but only smudged it further. What's a gazebo? Kim asked. I'll show you when we go outside, Paul answered her, and he reached out and tousled her hair. He stood tall. I tried to figure out the inches between my height and his, and I would guess he stood about 6 feet. He was skinny too, but I knew he had some good-looking muscles under that shirt. A shudder went through me as I thought about that. It seemed so funny that someone was showing us a house. Just a few hours ago, we were showing our house to the Gretels. Our little tour had taken just a few minutes, but this one would take a lot more. Maybe we'd never get to see it at all. The Abbott house had 6 bedrooms upstairs and 3 down, and each one had its own bathroom and sitting room. The kitchen was as big as our entire downstairs at home and had its own fireplace. The dining room was as formal as the living room, and I knew we would never eat there unless we planned to entertain royalty. Then Paul led us to Mr. Abbott's study. It was somewhat like a library, with leather everywhere, even on the walls. Another room Paul called the unwinding room. And there was a pool table made out of white marble, a television with a screen so large I thought we were in a private theater, a shelf full of all kinds of computer games, and a huge stereo sound system that covered an entire wall. Wherever you looked, there were paintings of boats and fishermen. Fresh flowers were everywhere, in ornate Chinese vase, on massive slabs of wood Paul called coffee tables, and in magnificent containers in various shapes on all the fireplace mantels. There were 6 fireplaces throughout the house. You'll like old Jim Cable, Paul told us, winding up the inside tour. Mr. Abbott calls him his lifesaver. He's a man of many talents. Gardener, carpenter. They rarely have to call a plumber unless the job gets too complicated. Jim also fixes little things like a broken rocking chair or a lamp. We stepped outside onto the patio made of brick on sand. There were flowers everywhere. Now I knew where they got all those flowers for all those vases. Palm trees of all sizes graced the back garden, and following the red brick path, we suddenly came upon an enormous oval-shaped swimming pool. It looked like a dark, rock-rimmed lagoon, with a gently trickling waterfall and literally hundreds of plants around it. "It's like a jungle," I gasped, "and the pool looks like something you'd stumble upon in paradise." "The tiles in the pool are a smoky black," Paul told us, "and the bottom and the sides are painted black." My mother peered down into the water. "The illusion really makes you forget that this lush garden is really in the heart of the desert," she said, turning back to Paul. "What are all those?" she asked, pointing at the jungle itself. "Agaves, aloes, bananas, oleanders, palms," Paul said, "and over here, palms, sedums, and yuccas. It took a long, long time to make it look like this." Paul led us past the pool and further into the jungle of flowers until we came to a clearing stacked with wood and cans of paint. An old man was sawing a piece of wood with some kind of electric saw. He switched it off as soon as he heard us coming. "Hello," he called out to us, smiling. "I'm Jim," he said, extending a blue-veined, wrinkled hand. My mother took it warmly and smiled back. He shook our hands so hard it was like he was pumping for water. He smiled wider, and I could see more spaces than teeth. "Jim lives in the little house beyond those trees," Paul explained. "Trudy, the maid, is off for the entire summer, and also Rachel, the cook, will be gone until September. Jim has decided to spend the summer here, though." "I don't have no better place to go," Jim said, laughing. His face was wrinkled like a dried-up apple, and there were about 6 gray-brown hairs on his crinkly head. "We are lucky, then," my mother said to him. He smiled a broad smile that made his wrinkles break out into more wrinkles. I liked him right from the start. "What we're doing here," Paul went on, pointing to the clearing, "is a secret, a surprise for Mrs. Abbott. She's wanted a gazebo all of her life, and Mr. Abbott asked us to build it while they were off on their trip. We couldn't start on it until last week after they left." "We told her we were clearing this place for a hothouse," Jim told us. "When she sees the gazebo, she'll darn right keel over." "I was experimenting with the paint," Paul said, applying turpentine to a rag and then rubbing off the smudge. Then he leaned over and washed his face with clear water. "That should do it," he said, forgetting about the paint on his forehead. "Okay," my mother said to Kim and me, "let's go inside and start putting our things away." I looked back one more time as I left the clearing. At all the stacked wood and paint they were to use on the project, it looked like a big job, which meant I would be seeing a lot more of Paul Strobe. Things were looking up, I thought, as I re-entered the Abbott house. Maybe Palm Springs wouldn't be so bad after all. End of Chapter 5. Commentary on Chapter 5. When Paul provides a tour of the Abbott house, Mariah is impressed by the size of the rooms and the grandeur of the interior finishes. She describes a sunken living room, meaning that this part of the house steps down. The floor level is lower than the adjacent rooms. This was popular in the 1970s and 80s, but somewhat fell out of style by the 2000s. In the sunken room, she describes stepping into a thick blue carpet that swallows her feet. This is likely what is referred to as shag carpet, also popular in the 70s. Throughout the 1980s, this fell out of style in favor of carpets that were looped and cut with shorter strands of fibers. As an interior designer, I find this book to be a time capsule of fun tidbits. Mr. Abbott's office appears to Mariah much like a library, and she is surprised there is leather on the walls. By 2018 or so, this interior decorating trend became popular again. It is preferred for both the acoustic properties as well as the luxurious look and feel it provides to a room. Finally, they meet old Jim, the handyman that works on the estate. Jim and Paul are building a gazebo for Mrs. Abbott, which is a freestanding, open outdoor structure, usually with a roof and benches interior to the structure for sitting and enjoying the outdoor space. Thanks for listening to Chapter 5 of Barbara Conklin's P.S. I Love You by Bantam Books, copyright 1981. Join me tomorrow as the Johnson family gets settled into their house-sitting duties in Palm Springs at the Abbott Estate, and we get to know more about Paul Strobe.